is cost reduction. And the only cost reduction method most HR managers can employ is by appointing low-cost consultants and showing that, look, I have reduced so many lakhs of rupees by getting such and such consultant. Now, in fact, I asked some of the HR managers, I think please use the same formula and getting a doctor for your CMD when he is in trouble. Go for a low-cost doctor. Why don't you do it? At least doctors, you know who is good, who is not good. But management consultants, you don't know who is good and who is not good. I mean, it's not. Management is not a science where you can say, if I use XYZ kind of a consultant, all that you can do is show to your CEO, low cost. Now, this is a foolish way of looking at the entire, I think, leadership development or competency building, commitment building and things of that kind. So I suggest to most of the HR managers, please understand the biggest contribution you can make to your corporation is contribution to the intellectual capital, invisible capital, which comes by having good people, good HR practices. Now, in this new book I have suggested, I think we surveyed in the last 15 years what is the research. Before that, 10 years research in different countries, New Zealand, Africa, India, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Singapore, Australia. All these countries have consistently, researchers have indicated, good HR practices make a difference in terms of the profit, in terms of employee commitment, in terms of shareholder value and things of that kind. It is only unfortunately not too much of literature is available in India. In India, of course, in this book, what I have done was I picked up the CII companies, HRD network companies. IIM Ahmedabad about 3 years ago conducted a survey along with SAIL for best HR practices in the manufacturing sector. I think we picked up all of it and we tried to see the award-winning companies, what is it that is common among them. Again, you find, I think their HR practices are remarkable. They contribute to so-called intellectual capital. They create a brand image and things of that kind. So now that is the complete HR audit. HR audit is HR systems audit, HR competencies audit. Competencies include competencies of HR people, line managers, top management styles, unions and labor and so on. Culture audit and intellectual capital, the extent to which your HR practices are. And that is what is described in this. I have aligned this with a 2,500 points. Anyone who goes through this can do an internal audit and then establish a kind of a scorecard for your own kind of a company using this particular kind of, it is based on this. Now the leadership is, if you are a good HR person, you must learn to do right things. And what is right thing? Your single most important agenda is to contribute to intellectual capital of a company. And if you have to contribute to intellectual capital, I think you better get your HR audit done. When you get your HR audit done, HR audit would suggest to you what are some of the areas where your organization needs to improve. And what I normally recommend to HR managers is, this is a hook tool. This tool hooks your CEO. Because one of the tragedies in our country is most CEOs don't know how to use HR managers. They don't know how to use. I don't blame the CEO. I blame the HR people. Because you didn't show them a way to use it. It is difficult to show the way, but you never used the little opportunity you had. You always took power from wrong kind of sources and neglected the right source, that is the expert power part of it and things of that kind. So I think we blame both. A better way to do it is, suppose you can tell your CEO, sir, why don't we get a HR audit done? You get an audit done. And when you get the audit done, if the audit is comprehensive, it suggests to the company, what is your score out of this 2,500? And show me a CEO who wouldn't get hooked when you tell him, out of 2,500 points, we scored only 1,700 or we scored only 1,300. There is quite a bit of gap. Okay, he says, where did we go? Suppose he says climate. Okay, what can we do to improve the climate? Suppose he says styles. What do you mean by styles? Sir, 360 feedback. Let us suggest the way to improve it and things of that kind. So I call the audit as a hook tool for HR managers to perform their leadership roles well and create a leadership pipeline in the company. Ask me the question, what is the difference between first edition and second edition? The first edition of the HRD audit appeared 15 years ago. And in the last 15 years, I've added a lot of research. I've aligned it with the 2,500 points that we came up with, HRD scorecard 2,500 points. So it contains research, it becomes easier. So you get the advantage of the HRD audit and the HRD scorecard in this. The book is heavier than the previous version, while the 360-degree feedback, I have reduced some parts, made it more relevant, and it is lighter than the previous version. So HRD audit has become heavy, and 360-degree feedback has become lighter, but both of them are fairly easy to read and so on. I would appreciate any feedback from any of you who go through these books. You are most welcome to write to my email ID is easily available. I want to thank the Ahmedabad Management Association. I want to thank you, Chinu Bhai, for giving this time, and I want to thank all of you for coming here and patiently listening to whatever I had to share this evening. Maybe if time permits, I can take some questions if you think. Yeah? Okay. So that will be very nice. Any questions on this? And thank you very much. Yeah. Question number one, I think it's I strongly believe that we Indians are not very good at marketing. First of all, we're not good at coining terms. We're not very good at C.K. Prahlad's core competency theory was formulated in Ahmedabad, but he became popular after he went to US and then wrote. I think normally we respect anything that is imported. Even Mahatma Gandhi has to be imported from abroad, very unfortunately. So we have the unfortunate thing. For us, we, Garka Murgi, Dal Barabar. Yeah, I think I am very convinced now. I hope with Modi ji's Made in India thing will change in the next 5 to 10 years. I think I'm proud as an Indian, but I am very unhappy with the way Indians treat other Indians. Because if you really look at it, this is what I started looking at. Suddenly one day it occurred to me, what did Lord Rama do? After he returned, after he killed Ravan and came back, and he started doing Ramraj. One fine morning he told the spies, find out what people are thinking about me. That is 360-degree feedback. There are many kings, good kings, visit to go in disguise. But I don't say that what I have done came from this. I later found this out. The American 360-degree feedback came as a very handy tool in terms of marketing a concept which we thought of here. It's a homegrown thing in the sense, I think it is commonsensical. If you ask me, even you can come up with this. There's nothing great about it. I think it's the only question of marketing and so on. On the second question of public sector audit, I must say that public sector audit is largely, if you look at HRD NTPC, I don't know what ONGC has done, but I know for sure the HRD audit in Bank of Baroda, or if you look at HRD audit in NTPC, they have gone more in the personnel audit rather than getting into an auditing HR. They use the term all right, but they have never gone into an audit with the kind of philosophy. They don't do competency audit. They don't get into culture audit. If they do it independently in terms of an organizational climate and things of that kind. So I think it depends upon why are you doing it. You are doing it because you have an MOU with the concerned ministry, and therefore you don't really put your heart and soul into it. So sometimes it is a little disappointing. In fact, we have done an audit for Khandelwal committee. All the banks we have audited. We all went and audited. We didn't give bank-wise, but we have given recommendations. But you know what the fate of Khandelwal committee's report. Government changes, everything changes. Our secretary changes, everything changes. Unfortunately, this is the kind of a thing. Private sector also, I don't want to say, has gone in a big way. I think Kumar Birla pursued for a little while, but after that his priorities has got changed. Vikram Birla at that time thought. So I'm not very sure. Himank is here who worked with Birla Group. He may be able to tell something about this. Some private sector, particularly new corporations, once in a while use this when they understand it. Not many people have. If you go through my blogs, I've written a blog on why HRD people are afraid of audit. Now, competency audit. Recently, we were asked by a University of Technology in Malaysia to train them all in HR audit. And we went there. And then it's only on the second day we discovered somebody sold HRD audit by telling them wrong things. They told us, we called you to teach us HRD audit so that we can downsize our university staff. We said that's not the purpose of HRD audit at all. It's not a competency audit. So we had to reorient the registrar and the top management and tell them HRD audit is this. Yeah, absolutely. So many people think HR audit means competency audit, and we have to go out of it. But we, at the end of it, we told them, and they appreciated it. We told them that, look, when you have a good performance management system, you can eventually do competency audit. You already have systems which can take care of it and things of that kind. Now you have assessment centers. The experience in India of assessment centers have been largely for development purposes. In the recent past, companies are using for, again, I think right sizing or things of that kind. I'm not very sure how far they have worked, because we really caution them, because the validity is questionable. Questionable in the sense we trust the assessment centers. It's always good. There are many positive things, but taking decisions on the basis of assessment center data is questionable, because even in the US, the validity doesn't go beyond 0.4, 0.5 and things of that kind. These are all some of the interesting experiences. Some of them are mentioned in the HRD audit and not in others. Okay, I have some few questions here. Okay, I have given a long answer because he asked 3 questions, sir. Anyone else from, yeah? Yeah. Let me read one of the questions. In companies where honesty is best policy is not the guiding principle, HR climate has to suffer. What is your view? I would say I entirely agree with you, but most companies don't say that honesty is not best policy, but they behave as though honesty is not best policy. So when you say and do something else, our HR audit does point out. In HR audit, we have a system where we assess what are your professed values and what are your practiced values. And we ask line managers, and we have a mechanism of computing. You may profess honesty, you may profess openness, your practice may be different, we come up with a score. We are trying to somehow communicate to companies it is important to profess. When you have professed it, already you have won part of the battle, because thought leads to practice. Thought automatically doesn't lead until you point out to people, yeah, your thought is right, but if you say your thought is not right, then I think you have a problem. So I think audit tries to point out whatever gaps are there in this. Okay, that is the answer to this question. Is 360-degree feedback only for leadership development? Please correct me if I interpret it wrongly, but this is what I understand from what you spoke. I must refer to this comment by this morning in the newspaper by Marshall Goldsmith. He defines leadership as simply managing your interpersonal relations. If leadership is managing interpersonal relations and communicating properly and influencing, even a driver has the scope to be a leader. Any employee has a scope to be leader. So 360-degree feedback may not be in a sophisticated way, the way we do it for managers, but in a simple way, it is applicable for a teacher, for a family. In fact, in this book, I've given tools for NGOs, I've given tools for parents, I've given tools for teachers and things of that kind. So 360-degree feedback for leadership development means leadership of a father, leadership of a child also. It is possible to have. So that is the way you interpret it. All right? You are correct that 360 is an Indian way, and on a lighter note, all Indian mother-in-laws use this way to appraise their daughter-in-laws. They take feedback from neighbors as well. I just want to know how 360 is significant. Only difference is mother-in-laws sometimes have attitudes and collect feedback what they like to fit into their attitude. Whereas 360-degree feedback doesn't start with an attitude. It collects different attitudes in an anonymous way. But I think that's a good attempt that you have said. Is there not a cheaper than some people providing 360 feedback irresponsibly give some institute kind of feedback? No, always, there is always a fear in 360-degree feedback, particularly some senior executives, that it may be used for political purposes. When anonymous feedback is given, why do you say it is used for political purposes? Now, we say in 360-degree feedback, somebody has given you feedback. It doesn't mean that you have to own it. You can always reject it. And we keep telling the story of Gautam Buddha, where he went on asking for alms. And when we went to one house, the lady didn't give anything for him, give food, but started accusing him and so on. And he smiled and he said thank you and came back. And when his disciple asked him, why are you smiling when she is scolding you so much? Why didn't you give her back? He said, no, I didn't accept whatever she gave. I left it there. So like this, if somebody is using for political purposes, you are not required to accept it. It is up to you. At least you know there are people who can do this. Yeah, absolutely. It is meant for introspection and things of that kind. Okay, all right. I have many other questions. I am not very sure if I think your 5-minute time is over, sir. Maybe one or two from and then I'll. This particular presentation has a few researches and so on. If you want, you can write to AMA. They will pass it on. Anyway, if you are having the book, then you don't need this presentation. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll take it up.
Okay, I think I'll take 1 minute. I think thank you, Dr. Rao, and thank you, Mr. Chinubai Shah. I think before vote of thanks, I think I would like to endorse for 1 minute. Number one, I am from active corporate world, director in MNC. When I had both these books and insight, I can say it's enlightening. That's number one. The first statement come in my mind is, these two books is for champion. It's a breakfast for champion. I think it will give a lot of feedback if you read it. When you were answering, the thought came in my mind that orbit is shifting. So this is the right time to read this book. And big thank you to all of you. Both these books are available at AMA. You can buy at special rate. So we close the program here. Big thank you again.